At least 15 wildfires continue to burn throughout California. The fires are blamed for at least 10 deaths, 100 injuries, and the destruction of at least 1,500 homes. Here's a live look of one of those wildfires right now. Firefighters are still trying to figure out what sparked the flames, which are being fanned by unusually high winds. CBS's Greg Mills is in hard-hit Santa Rosa, California, with the latest.
This was a Hilton hotel in the Napa Valley that catered to tourists visiting vineyards. Firefighters decided to just let it burn last night because it was too far gone and they were spread too thin. More than a dozen wildfires throughout California continue to burn out of control, primarily up here in wine country in Sonoma and Napa counties. Those trying to evacuate oftentimes find themselves stuck between pockets of flames.
There's fires everywhere. I've been sent in 3 different directions.
Homes, businesses, and entire forests are engulfed in flames. Vice President Mike Pence, on an unrelated visit to the region, promised federal support.
The federal government stands ready to provide any and all assistance to the state of California as your courageous firefighters and first responders confront this widening challenge.
As for how at least 15 wildfires can break out here in Northern California at roughly the same time, firefighters say that number is not that uncommon during wildfire season, and you can blame the weather for the size of the fires.
When you add a 50-mile-an-hour wind throughout many counties, those fires they get very large before resources can get at scene and contain them.
Shelters have been set up for evacuees and for those whose homes have been destroyed. Authorities here in Santa Rosa are on the lookout for looters. They've imposed a sunset to sunrise curfew. Greg Mills, CBS News, Santa Rosa, California.
California Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency for 6 counties. A Texas Tech police officer is dead after he was shot in the head at the campus police department by a drug suspect. After a search and campus lockdown, 19-year-old suspect Hollis Daniels is now in custody. It all began during a student welfare check on Monday evening. When officers arrived to Daniels' room, they found evidence of drugs and paraphernalia. The student was taken to the campus police department, where he fatally shot an officer in the head during a standard debriefing. He then fled the scene, but was later taken into custody. And all eyes are on North Korea today as the nation celebrates the founding of its Communist Party. Officials have warned the North could use the date to provoke the U.S. by launching yet another missile. On Monday, President Trump tweeted that U.S. policy on North Korea has been unsuccessful. Closer to home, the Laurel School District plans to ask taxpayers to help with growth expected for the next 20 years, but the bonds are a big ask. The plans were discussed during a presentation by the district Monday night. The master plan includes creating a new 3rd through 5th grade elementary school. The district also wants to add career and technical education, which is something that's not available to students right now. The bonds would add staff and reduce crowded classrooms, providing space for more than 500 additional students over the next 20 years. The $52.5 million proposed project would be funded with general obligation bonds that will sunset after 20 years. For example, residents with a $100,000 taxable value home would pay an annual $125 for both the elementary and high school bonds. If you recall, just this past May, Laurel residents soundly defeated a pair of levies for both the elementary and high school. While one could pass, another could fail, and the district will not be allowed to spread out the funds for all of those projects. Meanwhile, Yellowstone County District Court Judge Russell Fagg says he'll make an announcement this Saturday regarding Montana's U.S. Senate race. Fagg, a Republican, says he plans to unveil the results of his exploratory committee that has been looking into a possible 2018 run against Democratic Senator Jon Tester. Fagg has raised money, traveled the state, and met with voters to talk about whether he can beat Tester next year. However, he's insisted so far that he has not decided whether to become a candidate. Fagg is stepping down from his judge position this week. If he decides to run for U.S. Senate, he'd become the 6th Republican officially in the race. Tester is running for a 3rd consecutive term and already has raised close to $8 million in campaign funds. The Republican primary to choose Tester's GOP opponent is next June. EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt plans to sign a proposed rule today that will repeal Obama's Clean Power Plan. But proposing a rule to undo the regulation takes the same time-consuming process used to adopt the controversial rule in the first place. Clean Power Plan supporters vow this is just the beginning of the battle. David Donger with the Natural Resources Defense Council says the EPA must still hold a hearing, take public comment, and issue a final repeal. 24 states, including Montana and Wyoming, sued the federal government 2 years ago, challenging the plan. The plan targets coal-fired power plants that account for nearly 40% of U.S. carbon dioxide emissions. Obama officials touted the Clean Power Plan as key to protecting the public health, given the dangerous air pollutants and carbon emissions. Environmental Defense Fund President Fred Cupp calls the repeal effort, quote, a reckless retreat that will hurt our children and grandchildren. EPA officials vow the repeal effort will be conducted in a robust and open and transparent way. EPA spokeswoman Liz Bowman said any rule proposed by the Trump administration will be done, quote, carefully and properly within the confines of the law. Turning now to state news, high-tech jobs as a industry leading Montana's future was the focus of discussion on Monday on the University of Montana campus. MTN's Augusta McDonald has more on how some high-powered companies and lawmakers are seeing the opportunity to increase high-tech jobs in the Big Sky state.
Lawmakers and business owners talked about how increasing broadband capabilities can also increase jobs in Montana.
The president of Microsoft said that investing in digital and computer science education in rural schools is an investment in future job growth.
I think the strategic plan starts with educating people so that whether they're students or whether they're employees, they have the digital skills needed to put this technology to work. The second part of the strategic plan really involves getting broadband everywhere so everyone can use this. The third part of the strategic plan really involves companies like Microsoft and others, so we're working with businesses to help them identify how they can apply this technology and put it to work so they can grow and create more jobs.
There are challenges to building a high-tech industry in rural Montana.
Over 60% of rural Montanans don't have access to broadband. 65% of Indian country do not have access to broadband. We've got to bridge that connectivity divide.
The owner of a cybersecurity company based out of Bozeman that works remotely with many of its customers knows that broadband is critical to their success.
We can't readily protect our customers without them having ready-made broadband and reliable access. So it is a give and take. So that's an economic driver for us. Without broadband, we have fewer customers.
One FCC commissioner says that the benefits of investing in tech are clear. She looks forward to evidence of their progress next year.
I, for one, want to have a progress report of what the investments that we enable through good policy, through the targeted dollars. I, for one, want to have a report to say, look at what we've done. Look at how many more people have been served. How many more people that we've seen through clinical services.
Reporting in Missoula, I'm Augusta McDonald for MTN News.
In other news, the next phase of MTN's Montana Wildfire Relief Fund is underway and the grant application process is now open. Organizations, groups, and individuals who think they may qualify are welcome to apply. Applications will be accepted through November 10th. Over the past month, with help from people here in Montana and across the country, we have raised more than $424,000. A panel of fire experts, Montana Community Foundation representatives, and MTN staff will distribute funds based on need and relevance. Rural volunteer fire departments are highly encouraged to apply.
Those first responders are in pretty serious need of the money for equipment upgrades, training, all kinds of things. And so those are really probably going to be our main focus for grant making.
And donations are still being accepted. You can find the link on ktvq.com.